Welcome to the World Wire Update. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon for more updates and thrilling short scenes. A tariff is a tax placed by a government on imported goods. It's one of the oldest tools in the economic playbook, used by countries for centuries to influence trade and protect their own interests. When you buy a foreign-made smartphone, a tariff can add, say, 10% to its price. That extra cost doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's a direct result of government policy, and it's built into the price you pay at the register. The importer pays this extra cost, but it quickly ripples through the supply chain, wholesalers, retailers, and finally, you, the consumer. Each step along the way, the cost is passed on, often with a little extra added for each link in the chain. That $500 phone? Now it's $550, thanks to a policy decision in Washington, D.C. Even a small tariff can make a noticeable difference in what you pay. Tariffs aren't just abstract, they make everyday items like groceries, cars, and electronics more expensive. The impact is felt in every aisle, showroom, and checkout line across the country. The main goal: protect domestic industries by making imports pricier, so American-made products look more attractive. It's a way to encourage people and businesses to buy local, supporting jobs and factories at home. For example, if foreign steel becomes more expensive, a U.S. construction company might buy American steel instead. This can help keep domestic steel mills running and workers employed. This can boost domestic jobs and manufacturing, but it also raises costs for industries that rely on imports like car makers and appliance manufacturers. These businesses may face tough choices: raise prices, cut costs, or even reduce their workforce. The result? Higher prices for finished products and consumers caught in the middle. Whether you're shopping for a new phone or a family car, you're likely to feel the pinch. Tariffs create a fundamental tension. Some industries benefit, others suffer, and everyone pays more. The effects ripple out, touching every corner of the economy. The debate is about balance, helping certain producers versus the broader cost to businesses and families. Policymakers must weigh who wins, who loses, and what's best for the country as a whole. The Trump administration's sweeping tariffs brought this debate to the forefront, leading to a historic legal challenge. Suddenly, tariffs weren't just an economic issue, they became a political and legal flashpoint. At stake, who really controls the power to tax and shape trade policy in America? Is it the president, Congress, or the courts? The answer would have consequences for every American household and business. The outcome could change how much you pay for goods, and how companies plan for the future. As the legal battle unfolded, the true reach and impact of tariffs became impossible to ignore. The story of tariffs is about more than economics. It's about power, policy, and the lives of millions. The stage was set for a showdown that would redefine the limits of presidential power and shape the future of American trade for years to come. The legal fight began in dramatic fashion, setting the stage for a historic confrontation between branches of government. It all started when President Trump imposed sweeping tariffs on a wide range of imports, citing national emergencies as justification for his actions. Some of these tariffs reached as high as 50%, directly targeting major trading partners like China, Mexico, and Canada, and sending shockwaves through global markets. The administration invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to justify these extraordinary measures, a bold and unprecedented move in U.S. trade policy. Traditionally, Congress has always controlled tariffs and taxes, but this new approach bypassed the usual legislative process, raising serious constitutional questions. In response, a coalition of 12 states and 7 major businesses came together to sue, arguing that the president had overstepped his constitutional boundaries and undermined the separation of powers. Their core claim was simple, yet powerful. Only Congress can impose taxes, and IEPA doesn't explicitly grant the president that sweeping authority. They warned that unchecked executive authority could allow any president to impose taxes at will, simply by declaring an emergency, setting a dangerous precedent for the future. The case quickly escalated, pitting the scope of executive power directly against Congress's constitutional role in taxation and trade. Eventually, the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, setting the stage for a landmark decision that would shape the balance of power for years to come. The Supreme Court faced a pivotal question: can the president use emergency powers to set tariffs without Congress? The Constitution gives Congress the power to tax and set tariffs, a key check on presidential authority. The Trump administration argued IEPA's broad language allowed the president to act swiftly in emergencies, including imposing tariffs. Opponents countered that Congress never intended to hand over its core taxing power, especially not through vague language. The court had to decide, does IEPA's silence on tariffs mean the president can act, or is that power reserved for Congress alone? The answer would set a precedent for the limits of presidential authority in economic emergencies. In court, the administration argued the president needs broad authority to act fast in global crises, and that IEPA's power to regulate commerce includes tariffs. They claimed Congress could always rein in the president by changing the law if needed. The challengers warned this would let presidents bypass Congress on taxes, undermining the separation of powers. They pointed out IEPA never mentions tariffs or taxes, an intentional omission, they argued. Allowing unilateral tariffs, they said, would give the executive king-like powers over the economy. The debate boiled down to one question: should a president be able to impose sweeping taxes by declaring an emergency? The stakes were enormous, not just for trade but for the very structure of American government. The Supreme Court's decision would draw a new line between executive and legislative power. The Supreme Court ruled decisively: the president cannot use IEPA to impose tariffs without Congress. The majority opinion stressed that the Constitution gives Congress, not the president, the power to tax and set tariffs. The justices noted IEPA allows the president to freeze assets or halt trade, but never mentions tariffs or taxes. If Congress wanted to delegate such a major power, it would have done so clearly. The ruling struck down the Trump-era tariffs imposed under IEPA, sending shockwaves through Washington and global markets. The court reaffirmed that emergencies don't erase constitutional boundaries. Billions in tariffs were deemed unlawful, though some tariffs under other laws remained untouched. The decision set a powerful precedent, restoring Congress's control over the nation's purse. The Supreme Court's decision had immediate effects across the economy. For consumers, it means relief from higher prices on imported goods, electronics, clothing, even groceries. Businesses relying on imports like automakers and electronics firms saw costs drop, boosting competitiveness and potentially lowering prices. But domestic industries once shielded by tariffs like steel and aluminum now face tougher competition from cheaper imports. The ruling exposed the trade-offs of tariff policy, help for some, challenges for others. More importantly, it brought stability, ending the uncertainty of sudden sweeping tariffs. Companies can now plan investments in supply chains with greater confidence. The decision rebalanced the playing field, letting market forces, not emergency decrees, shape trade. For many, this predictability is the most valuable outcome. The effects will ripple from supermarket aisles to factory floors nationwide. The Supreme Court's decision dramatically reshaped the future of American trade policy and the scope of presidential power. This landmark ruling sent shockwaves through Washington, signaling a new era of checks and balances between the executive and legislative branches. Now, presidents can no longer use IEPA to impose broad tariffs unilaterally. They must work with Congress to enact sweeping trade measures. This shift restores a measure of congressional oversight that many lawmakers had long demanded. But the story isn't over. Legal and political maneuvering continues as both sides test the boundaries of their authority. The administration quickly pivoted to Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, which allows tariffs on national security grounds, a tool that remains firmly in the president's hands. This law is harder to challenge in court and has already been used to target steel, aluminum, and other goods, affecting industries and workers across the country. Trading partners like the EU and Japan may feel some relief, but countries such as India still face uncertainty as new investigations and potential tariffs expand the list of affected goods. The global trade war has shifted, not ended. The landscape is evolving, with new alliances and rivalries emerging on the world stage. The ruling may inspire Congress to further limit presidential tariff powers across all statutes, sparking fresh debates over the separation of powers. The debate over who truly controls American trade policy is far from settled, and the stakes have never been higher for both the economy and the Constitution. The Supreme Court closed one chapter, but the ongoing struggle over economic power and constitutional limits continues to shape the nation's future. The next battles will shape not only America's role in the world, but also the delicate balance of power at home for generations to come.